What the hell? That was amazing. You know, this show loves to do cliffhangers, and that's definitely a cliffhanger I can get behind. So boy, do we have a lot to talk about. So let me get some of the side stuff out of the way, all right, before I get into the best things about this episode. So Shide's alternate body. This is something I was confused about last episode. Had no idea how there were two bodies, considering he created new bodies every time, or Heine did. Now, come to find out that there was a body that was preserved and he's using that in some way. I don't think this is the strongest explanation that the show has given for a concept, but I'm willing to just accept it because just the quality of the other stuff in this show. And ultimately, it's probably gonna die anyway, especially with what we saw at the end of the episode. But let's keep going. Let's go through the episode. So yeah, Shinpei looks like Shinpei has future sight, which is pretty cool. He's able to predict when the lightning or where the lightning will hit. Now this is obviously a result of probably having Rinosuke in his arsenal now. Rinosuke is alive and well. It turns out that when Hizuru was actually dying, and I think it's safe to say that she is permanently dead, which is good. I like that the anime actually kept her dead. It was a nice send-off, and this episode actually felt her absence, and I'm starting to feel, you know, how this anime is going to feel without her. So Rinosuke is still alive. His data got transferred into Shinpei, and Shinpei has been using that to his you know, advantage. He's able to see the future, I guess 2 seconds into the future, and also we haven't seen it yet, but I'm assuming he's going to be able to use the same powers that Hizuru did. You know, enhanced athletic ability, all the reflexes, and that is going to be pretty useful. On top of that, we've got another character on our team that has made a return, but we'll get to that. So yeah, this part here was very interesting. So gets friend zoned completely. He actually kind of anticipates it, and it's not the first time he's gotten it, but he anticipated it, and he put himself through it. He's like, all right, I'm gonna get ahead of this, and I'm gonna just close this chapter. And you know, shout out Mio for faking being a shadow so she didn't have to deal with So. That was pretty brutal. Now this is not the only friend zone we get into, because after that Mio confesses to Shinpei, who, you know, by this moment, he probably knows Mio's into him after all the loops he's been through, after everything he's seen and heard. And what does he say when she confesses and says, I love you? Huh? So he tells her, yeah, I appreciate it, but ultimately I don't feel the same way. I love Ushio, and also you're my precious little sister. So after that friend zone, or sister zone I should say, she actually does a pretty mature thing and moves on. I like that about Mio. It shows growth. It shows that she's focused and understands that the seriousness of the situation at hand, and it's not the end of the world because they're still friends. That's a sentiment that So actually it kind of puts out there after their conversation, saying, oh, we're still gonna be friends, right? So it's just, you know, really mature conversations and, you know, mindsets from our characters who are otherwise pretty young. So then we get into an explanation of Shinpei's power a little bit more, and this is actually very reminiscent of Steins Gate and the whole idea of parallel worlds. So every time Shinpei is jumping, he is basically creating another parallel world. His consciousness is traveling with him. So the difference between this and Steins Gate, while both have the concept of these parallel worlds, is that Shinpei is actually kind of erasing the past worlds when he's traveling. You can't really go back to those specific worlds, unlike Steins Gate, because his consciousness is basically the root of the world, and if the consciousness doesn't exist in the world, it's like it never existed. Now we get an explanation on why this matters, because Ushio is alive, or at least her second body is always present in the loops. Now this is a theory that a lot of people have been putting out there for a while, ever since Ushio disappeared a few episodes ago, that there is going to be a return, because there's always that Ushio that washes up on the beach the night of the fireworks. So not the craziest, you know, theory, but it's makes sense. And the thing about this show I love a lot is, although there are a lot of mysteries and a lot of information and a lot of concepts surrounding the time travel aspect of this show, whether it's Shinpei or whether it's how Shide's body jumping, there's pretty believable explanations for everything. It's not like they just throw a bunch of stuff at you and expect you to just believe it. They explain why this is happening in the context of the show. Obviously none of this is realistic, but it all makes sense, and that's what makes the show so cohesive and the plot so engaging, because you understand and you have reasons for why things are happening, why Ushio's still alive, why Shide is able to have a body double, why Ushio is able to follow Shinpei, why Shinpei has his powers, although we haven't really gotten the full explanation on how Shinpei got his powers, but still. So that Ushio still exists in the ocean and they want to find her. Now, this is just another example of that explanation where the shell that Shinpei's been carrying contains the memories of Ushio. Now, this is something that she wanted them to notice. This is what she was referring to before she got clapped by Shide, where she wanted them to notice that she kept her memories in that shell. And that shell is actually sort of a compass for her body, and they're using that to get to her body before the time when she, washes up on the beach, because they realize, wait a minute, Heine has known everything up until this point, so she probably also knows that Ushio is alive. So what do? They use that shell and they set out to find the body. Now, obviously, we get to this scene where Heine is also trying to figure out the body and its location. And she figures it out, sends her boy Shide, and from there we get into the climax of this episode. Shide and his goons are looking for Ushio's body in the ocean, and boy oh boy, it was really interesting to see Shinpei using the baby as armor, to traverse through the ocean. And I really liked how we shifted from his perspective straight away to Ushio's. We got her flashbacks, and then we got her awakening through her perspective. This was just such an amazingly well-crafted scene. They jump through the air and they're falling down, and just they're in each other's arms, and just look at the cinematography of this scene. Like, this is just beautiful. The music went crazy and Ushio has awakened. Shide is no match for her, and dude, just look at this. I think she is gonna put in work next episode. Yeah, Shide is gonna have a hard time dealing with this. But yeah, that's this episode of Summertime Rendering. Another amazing one. Hats off to it. I don't think there's been a bad episode of this show. And when it comes down to scoring the season, after all is said and done, it's gonna play a huge factor in my ranking. But let me know what you guys thought about this episode down below. Are you guys hyped for Ushio? We got a cliffhanger, but I gotta say, that's a cliffhanger that I can get behind, and it just makes me hyped for next episode. Really sad that this is behind Disney jail, and this is just ultimately not gonna get the push that it deserves because it's behind Disney plus jail. But for those that are watching it, y'all already know how hyped this anime is. But yeah, let me know what you guys' thoughts are. If you guys enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like, that sub button, and I will catch you guys next week. Peace.